welcome to the life of a Latina engineer. Today, we're going to talk about the 7 mistakes that you're doing in college. So, while most of the examples that I'll be giving out apply specifically for engineering, these 7 tips apply to any college student to help them succeed in their career. But before we jump into the video, please be sure to like this video so that I can reach out more engineering students and I can create more helpful content like this one. And if you're enjoying this video or have watched other of my videos, please consider subscribing. Now, let's get to the 7 mistakes that you're doing in college. Number 1 is not asking questions. And I know you're telling me this is the most basic thing that you could have told me, not ask questions. But hear me out why it's so important. And even if you tell me that you don't ask questions, you're shy, you're better off just sitting in the back and minding your business, asking questions is really beneficial to your education. The first reason is because if you're not asking questions and you're showing up to class, sitting in the back, just listening and then leave right after, then might as well take an online class. You could take an online class from whenever you want, at whatever time you want, and you save the hassle of showing up to the classroom every other day since you're not taking full advantage of being actually present in that class. So here also depends on the size of your classroom. Maybe if you have a larger class, you won't be as likely to ask questions than if you were in a small one. But if you do, really take that opportunity to ask the questions that you have. The second reason to ask questions is to get the money worth that you're paying for college. I mean, let's be honest. College is not cheap by any means. So if you're paying for an education, if you're paying for classes that are more custom for smaller quantity, less people, for example, maybe 25 to 30 top students in the class, then you need to really take advantage of that. Because just because you're paying for the smaller class doesn't mean that you're making the most if you're still not participating or asking questions. Most of the times, professors make this really easy, and I've had it in classes of 80 students when professors still take the time to ask if anyone has questions before they start or after they're done with lecture. And most of the times, I see that everybody just sits in silence and don't ask anything. And I'm pretty sure there are questions, and I know that I've had questions that I just didn't answer because I was too scared, because I was always really shy. Along with questions, it's also just participating and throwing out answers when the professor is asking. You might get it wrong, but you will remember that question later on and you would actually get the right answer. You know, we learn from our mistakes. So while it might make you feel uncomfortable to get a wrong answer during class and thinking that you look like you're not smart enough in front of the rest of the students, you will learn more from that question than anyone else that just heard you say the wrong answer. They might not even remember it later, but you will, because you went out of your way to answer the question and actually find out what was the right answer. Because if you hadn't said it out loud and you were really confident that that was the right answer, there comes the exam and you're gonna think that your wrong answer is still the right one. And the last thing that I want to bring up for this mistake is also that you need to be prepared to ask questions. You can't just go to class and expect that you're gonna think of questions right on the spot. You need to either be prepared before the classroom and know what the topic they're gonna be covering that day, and then after you're done with that, you need to review it so that if you didn't understand something for the next class, you're able to come back and ask that question that you had after you reviewed your notes. So asking questions is not just about going to class and coming up with the randomest questions that might not even actually help you. They need to be questions that you actually have and they are coming up while you're reviewing the content and while you're doing your homework. Mistake number 2 is not joining a club that directly relates to an emphasis that you want to have or your career. This is specifically important for engineering. Many of the concepts that we learn in the classroom are just theory and we're not really able to apply them until we do internships or until we get to have an engineering job. But another way to connect all that theory into the real world is by joining a club that can apply this already. There are many different types of clubs that you can join. It all depends on your interest. And the beauty about this is that you get something that you start getting passionate about, you start applying your engineering concepts, and and it is something that you're looking forward to, because it's not like you're taking a class that you're just doing the homework because you have to. You're actually going there because you want to be involved, you're learning, you get to work hands-on. I've seen students that will spend their whole afternoon in the lab just working on the projects for their clubs because they were really passionate and they will get so involved. And just the amount of things that you learn in those clubs, it's amazing. Also because there aren't only the other students that are in your classes. You get to meet students that are in different semesters and different years in their career. So sometimes you even get to learn things that you haven't seen in the classroom yet, but that you're able to because you have those connections with those other students that might know already more than you do. The other thing is that you will create friendships with other students that are studying similar careers and that might have really similar interests. And this brings me to the mistake number 3, is not building friendships. Mistake number 2 and mistake number 3, which is to join a club and to develop friendships, were some of the mistakes that for me were challenging to overcome because I was a commuter and I typically would only go for class and leave right after. So for me, sometimes it was really hard to get out of classroom at like 12 p.m. and then have a meeting for my club at like 6 p.m. because I had nowhere to go during those 5 to 6 hours, and my home was just too far to drive back home and come back later for that. And it is something that I really regret, because by joining a club where I was able to get hands-on early on in my career, I would have avoided having to learn all these other things once I started doing my internships or once I started working, and I would have been more prepared as well. As far as building relationships with other students that might be in the same classes or in the same career, the benefits are endless. The first one is that you can create a group of students that can work together on their homeworks, especially if they're in the same classes. Or maybe the same class but with different professors. They can still relate and combine their knowledge to, help each other to pass this class. The second benefit is that to pass on books. If you have friends in the same career but that might be a semester ahead, all their books that they had, they could either pass them on to you, they could rent them for you, or they might even have PDFs that they could literally just transfer to you. So this way you don't have to buy textbooks. Other things that they might have is old exams or homeworks or even their notes. Those will be really helpful, especially if you're taking maybe the same professor. You can get an idea of how they run their class, how they format their exams, because in my case, I always struggled during the first test of every single semester in every class. I needed to understand how the professor would create their tests in order for me to prepare adequately for them. Most of the times I didn't know what to expect, especially if it was the first time with that professor, and my first test will be the worst one that I will have the whole semester, and then the next one I will get better, and then the next one I will get better. So my grades always started low and they started going higher as I understood my professor. But if you have friends that took these classes with the same faculty already and they have their old notes or they have their old exams, you can take a look at them and you can prepare yourself better. And along with this, I can also recommend to you what professors to take and which ones to avoid. The fourth mistake is taking pretty notes during class. Don't bother taking fancy pencils, highlighters, pens, pencils, markers, because you shouldn't be using them while you're taking notes during a lecture. What you're gonna end up doing is that you're just not gonna end up paying enough attention to the professor. You're just gonna be concentrating, trying to find the other color that you need to use, and then grabbing the highlighter and putting it back, and then now I need to erase something, and your attention is gonna be divided trying to coordinate your notes and trying to pay attention. During class, you're supposed to be listening to that professor and taking the most advantage that you can from what they're telling you. So focus on paying attention to them, jot down the notes that you need, the things that are important, and then just move on. And it doesn't matter if it's all messy, it doesn't matter if it's all over the place. The goal is to understand what they're explaining to you and to jot down the most important things, and then later back you can go and read the chapter again, you can compare notes with others, and you can rewrite them, and this would also help you to review what you learned during the classroom. Reviewing and maybe going over the chapter in the book will help you connect what you saw in the classroom and what you're learning now. You can take a different set of notes from the book and compare them or mix them with what you took in the classroom, and it would also help you prepare to have questions for the next class, like I said in mistake number 1, so you can have those questions and you can take advantage of the most of the time that the professor is spending to work with you and to teach you. Mistake number 5 is not applying for scholarships. If you think that you're not eligible for any scholarship, think again, because most of the time that's not true. Especially if you're doing engineering. There is a lot of funds that are going towards STEM education, and you can benefit from some of that. Anyone, pretty much anyone, can get a scholarship. It can be through the school, it can be through the community, it can be through the government. And if you want to learn more, I have another video that I'll try to link here, or it might be down in the description, so that you can learn more about applying for scholarships. Mistake number 6 is buying textbooks, especially if it is before you even step foot on the classroom. Sometimes the books, while they're listed in the syllabus, you'll find out that they're not mandatory once you go into your first class. And you're going to be thinking, why did I buy this book? I already opened it, I can't return it, or I already rented the book. Now what do? I just wasted that money. The other thing you can do is, rather than buying, you can rent the books. And while this is helpful because sometimes it's way cheaper, it also has some downsides because if you want to refer to those books later, you won't have access to them unless you decide to buy them later or you wanna rent them later. In my case, it was a book that we had to use for 2 classes. So if you're renting, you have to rent it twice and it will just end up being almost as much as we had bought it. So if you don't want to buy and you are considering renting, first look at these other 2 options. The first one is a hand-me-down from someone else, another student that might have already finished that class and that might just want to get rid of the book or is not interested in keeping it. This is where having friendships with students that might be older than you or in a semester ahead of you is helpful because they might let you borrow it, they might sell it to you for cheaper than you would online, or they might even just give it to you because they really don't need it because their emphasis might be in something else, so they'd rather keep other books. Now, another more friendly option is getting a copy of a digital book. In my case, I was able to get a mix of physical books that were hand-me-downs, and I was also able to get the digital copies of books. And sometimes maybe one of the students that is in your class was able to get it from another student that already took the class, and then that student was able to help the rest of us that were in the classroom to get a copy of that book. And that way, none of us had to spend on books that we might only use once. The other thing is that these digital copies might also come with an answer key, which can be helpful if you use it the right way. Using answer keys or websites that give you answers to problem textbooks is really important to know how to use them in a way that you're actually going to learn something and not just copy. And if you want to learn more about that, I will be making a video in the future. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the video when it comes out. Now, finally, the 7th mistake is not doing internships. And this is the biggest rule in engineering. You cannot graduate without doing an internship. You're just going to damage your potential to get in higher. Like I said before, from one year that you do your internship to the next, you're gonna see an immense growth from what you know, from how fast you can do a project, things that you're able to understand. So definitely start the earlier that you can. I know some engineering students that started doing internships even before they started college. So after the senior year, they had already landed an internship. The only thing you need to do is to go out there and look for these internships. Most of the time, the companies know that you're there to learn. They're not expecting you to know every single thing that you have learned in the classroom, but from just taking that one internship, even before you start your college career, you're already gonna be so much more prepared for what's there to come in your career. So if you think about it, you can do one before your freshman year, you can do one after your freshman year, you can do one after your sophomore year, one after your junior year. That's 4 internships that you can get before you graduate. That's 4 different companies you can work for that you can potentially work for after. And that's 4 summers that you spend 3 months each just focusing on engineering or any career that you're doing, but solemnly on that. And you're learning from people that already graduated and have years from experience. You're hands-on working and you're seeing everything firsthand and you're absorbing everything that's happening in front of you. So while you need a degree and you need to pass out your classes to get a job when you graduate, you would also need this experience. So definitely never think that it's too early to take an internship or that a company will turn you away because you might be on your first year. If they don't want to hire you, then look for another internship. The point is to get as much exposure and as much experience as you can. So, are you doing any of these 7 mistakes? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video and you want to see more about engineering school and college education, don't forget to subscribe. I upload videos every single Saturday. Thank you for watching. Bye!